Welcome to the Cinephiles, everybody. It is the show where three, or in this case two, movie lovers get together to talk all things film. Each episode, we talk about the movies we think you should see coming up or streaming right now, and we're going to dive into those that we love. And we're going to start today with, you'd call this a classic, a reinvention.
Yeah.
With two huge names in movies right now. This is Wuthering Heights.
Falling.
I can follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
Fall in love. Falling.
Are you feeling quite right?
What? Oh, yes, fine.
Fall in love again and again. 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 Fall in l
You want me to stop?
Well, certainly a beautifully shot film. A lot of steam in this particular film. If you didn't pick that up from the trailer there, Brian, what's this one about?
So it's based on Emily Bronte's book from 1847, and it's a definite Emerald Fennell movie. If you've seen Promising Young Woman or Saltburn, you maybe know what to expect. It's very stylized. It's not quite a straight adaptation. I'd say those quotes around Wuthering Heights are for emphasis, I think, but it's sort of like an ironic version of Wuthering Heights. The original novel, if you've ever read it, is kind of a nasty piece of work. It's not one of the great romances of our time, I think. I think it's a book about obsession. It's a book about class and kind of poking holes in the ways that people do or do not fulfill their dreams. So the story is basically Kathy, a young woman from a kind of middle-class family, gets a pet when she's young, which is Heathcliff, played by Jacob Elordi when he's older. And he's sort of a servant class character who she falls in love with, and they fall in love with each other. But her class prevents her from pursuing that.
Titanic.
Right. Yeah, kind of. Except in this, she goes and gets married to someone else, and it's doesn't really work out for them. And they kind of torture each other, tormenting each other with their other affairs, their other loves, while eventually kind of getting into an affair. Now, they're advertising a very steamy movie. There's a lot of eroticism and a little bit of BDSM and kink in that trailer. That is very much on the surface. A lot of this movie is on the surface. It's all very, like I said, stylized to the point where there are surreal scenes of there's a point where somebody dies and they die of drinking too much. And there's about 200 bottles stacked up in a way that's impossible for them to be stacked up because that many bottles can't be stacked up in the way they are in this movie. So it's CGI. So there's little things like that where it's like these surreal details that are just a little bit extra than reality. At the same time, there are these moments where it feels like a traditional classic book adaptation with, it's a costume drama set on the English countryside, and it's all very straightforward. So it's kind of balancing these weird expressive elements with these classical elements that didn't, for me, work out in a way that I found pleasing.
How is the chemistry?
I mean, the chemistry is fine.
That's what they're selling the movie on.
Right. The problem is that they're together in the story for so little time that you don't really feel anything for them. I think that as portrayed by Margot Robbie, this character in the book is a teenager. Heathcliff is a teenager. And by that time, she's worrying about getting married as a teenager because by the time you're in your early 20s, you're a spinster. Well, I mean, Margot Robbie's 35 and Jacob Elordi is 28, I think, and they're just a little too old for this. So when she's acting like a impetuous teenager, it just doesn't quite work.
I see.
There's other versions of this where people are adults and they're playing these characters, and it's worked a little bit better because they adapted the material to that. Here, it just didn't work for me.
Go ahead.
I think there's a potential here for a lot of people to really like what they see, and there's a lot of beautiful aesthetics here, but it's so surface level. It's like all these aesthetics and the way she's adapted the story have removed all the subtext. So there's nothing but this sort of forbidden love going on. And that's it.
Yeah, there was another criticism about this particular production of it, because in the book, apparently the love affair, the young servant, is, I don't know if it was a person of color, but I think it's a South Asian.
Yeah, they're kind
Something it's like an allusion to not being white, certainly.
right.
But they overlooked that in many of these adaptations.
I mean, 99% of them never address this. And so the character is picked up in Liverpool, I believe, which was sort of a slavery staple in England at the time. And so it's assumed that, yes, he's dark and is maybe like a Roma or something like that. Maybe, who knows? It's ambiguous. There's a version from 2012, directed by Andrea Arnold, that actually has a person of color in that role, and it works in a way and explores how really dark the book is. This, I think Emerald Fennell, cherry picked what she wanted out of it, and just kind of put some splashy stars and splashy sex in there. And I just don't, it's all very beautiful. I loved looking at it, but I just didn't feel much watching it. And I've really preferred other versions. Like there's a 1939 version with Laurence Olivier, directed by William Wyler. Check that out. Check out the Andrea Arnold one. But I felt nothing but like cold appreciation for this, and I should be, wrapped up in it emotionally.
Would you rate it?
I'd say skip it.
He's going to say skip it. Wow. Really?
Yeah.
So here's the problem. We do a movie show, but I'm also just a broadcast journalist. I was supposed to go on a date with my wife to Wuthering Heights. She wanted to do it. But we had 12 hours of basketball on Sunday, so I couldn't do that. So I'm literally relying on you right now.
Right.
And you're saying skip it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you'd love it, but I don't think you would. I think you'll both be kind of confused as to what she's going after in this movie.
Okay.
It's very inconsistent, and I just had a hard time connecting with it.
All right, we'll have to find out. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. All right, this is what I did see, and it just came out into theaters. And I think Brian and I are about to disagree on another movie. This one's called How to Make a Killing.
Okay. Gun to your head. What would you even do with $1 billion?
Why do you have a gun to my head? Since the day I was born, my mother told me we were different. Yes, she had been disowned by her family, but someday I would become the sole heir. The real estate, planes, an island or two.
Beckett, no way. So are you living in the city now?
Yeah, I do. A little outside of it.
Whatever happened to the Redfellow family fortune?
I'll inherit it. Someday.
Well, call me when you've killed them all.
Wow, what a subtle hint to the plot there, Bri.
I mean, it's in the title.
Okay, so this is the story about. Go ahead. I mean, it's
Sure. So this is based on inspired by a movie from the 1940s called Kind Hearts and Coronets. And basically it's about somebody who's disinherited from a billionaire fortune and wants to eliminate the people on the family tree that are standing between him and his fortune. In the original film, all the 7 people that had to be murdered were all played by Alec Guinness. And it was a very cool stunt. Here they're all played by different characters. You've got Topher Grace as a kind of a mega church guy who's friends with El Chapo.
He was great.
He was great. Zach Woods is hilarious as a self-proclaimed white Basquiat who's pretty insufferable. All of these people are not the nicest people, and frankly, neither is Glenn Powell. I mean, anyone who sets out to murder 8 people to get a billionaire fortune is not the greatest guy. This is sort of a comedic thriller, as I would describe it. There's moments of humor and there's moments of genuine thrills as he's maybe going to get caught by the FBI or exposed in one particular murder or the other. So there's a humorous element to it, I think, as well, because a lot of these people are absurd or caricatures. But I do think that there's an interesting theme under it, which is, dreaming small. We're not in America taught to dream small. We're taught to dream big. People who are rich and successful are what we aspire to be. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Not that we're aspiring to be, the Kardashians, but the Kardashians, the Real Housewives. All of these people are what we kind of aspire to be and what we look at and admire, and we hope for that kind of excess in our lives. I should say I'm using the royal we at this. So this is not
Sure are.
This is not something that
Anyway.
that I'm aspiring to.
No, but that's what it hints at, right? That's the American dream.
Right.
Is filthy loads of money.
Right,
And
right.
the prestige and the luxury that comes with it.
And he's pursuing that because that's what he's always been told to do. His mother literally tells him to pursue that lifestyle, and that's how he interprets that.
Well, she said, don't stop.
Don't stop until you
get it.
achieve it. Yeah. So he's on this kind of relentless mission, and he doesn't know anything else. And that I thought was a very interesting dynamic. It's also structured in a way that is like a film noir. Like he's telling the story from death row.
Yeah, it's
And-
the usual suspects.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
Sure. And it turns into this. What I found was a pretty satisfying morality tale about just dreaming small, like finding what makes you happy and not being told what you should pursue in your life. But you hated this movie, so
No, I hate such a strong word, Brian.
Strong
I didn't
movie.
hate it. It's like, to me, it's a 2 out of 4. Like, you're gonna go get what you pay for. I thought the acting was great. I thought it was fun. Like, I had a good time the whole time. But now that I helped do this show with you, I sit and I actually critique these films as I'm going through. I don't just sit back and enjoy them like a roller coaster. I'm like, wait a minute. And there's a lot of elements in this movie that do not work. There's a lot of things that are completely unbelievable. And even the message, in my opinion, gets contorted and mixed up at the end. For instance, you said at the end of the movie, the idea of the moral of the tale is to what? To not follow money and to follow your
dream small. Yeah.
To dream small and know when happiness is upon you, because happiness is the great gold.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens in the end of this movie. Spoiler alert to anybody who hasn't seen it yet. At the end of this movie, he sells his soul twice. Once to get the money by murdering a series of people, some of whom the viewer could say deserved it, some didn't. But at the end, then he has to sell his fortune to save his own soul to get out, and then he goes along with the woman who conspired to do the whole thing. I don't even understand, first of all.
Spoilers, by the way.
I already said, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I gave you a warning.
Yeah.
I gave you a warning. You can earmuff it. But I just had issues. He fell in love with this girl, as people do young love, when they were 10, maybe, something like that.
Sure.
5th grade,
Yeah.
4th grade in the movie. And that becomes the woman that sets and plans this entire set of action up. I don't think so. And she sold her soul too, because her husband wasn't working out, because he wasn't making money. And so now that he has a job with a Wall Street firm, he's now worthy of her love, and she's going to mastermind this whole Manchurian candidate thing. Like, what? That doesn't work.
So for the ending, let's go with the ending.
Sure.
So what happens to him doesn't necessarily mean that his fate is the moral center of the film. The moral center of the film is the Jessica Henwick character, who
It's
does
the message
believe-
underneath.
Right. She's the one who's dreaming small. She's the one who's happy being a high school literature teacher, who would marry him, if he were poor, and it doesn't matter to him. So the fact that he has to one, pursue the billions, and two, live a life of kind of emptiness with this other person, that is where the morality comes in, because he could have just given all this up and gone off with her and lived a happy life. But
He couldn't stop.
Yeah, and she in the end kind of judges him and drives away, and that's it. And I think that's where the morality is. It's not just because he goes off and has riches at the end doesn't mean that that's where the movie wants us to go.
There is that Icarus tale, right? You want to be too close to fly to the sun. But there's a point, like here's another instance. Spoiler alert again. There's a point where he starts knocking people off. One of the people he knocks off is a Major D, right?
Yeah.
The artsy guy.
Well, there's a few, but
There's a
yeah.
few, but the artsy guy. He then falls in love with this man's wife, who turns out to be a seemingly wonderful human, and brings her to all the funerals therefore afterward. You're under suspicion of being a murderer, and you go to the funeral now with the former wife, the widow of the guy who got knocked off, as a cousin.
So I think you're not appreciating that this is like a satire. Like, it's not a realistic
Sure is.
not a realistic movie. It's
I know.
not trying to be logical. It's just like, you know, this is
fun.
setting up a very playful
Yeah, like, just, you know, just
some playful murders.
no big deal.
Like No Other Choice last year. It's a guy who, you know, is murdering a bunch of people to get the
right.
job that he wants.
That's right.
You know, this is a heightened world. It's a, you know, I dare say like Hitchcockian world almost, where there's blending of humor and thriller, and it's yeah, I get that maybe it's not a tonally, you know, you're not used to
It's not
this
perfect.
you're not used to this kind of tone, this meshing of, you know, humor and kind of the macabre.
not.
But I think it's there's antecedents for this, and you know, precedents for this.
All right.
And I don't know.
I think Powell's great. He's one of the only guys who can play this type of role.
Yeah,
it's like in one scene it's a rom-com, in another scene it's like a horror scene or drama scene, serious drama, dark drama, noir. Another scene it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
He can do it all, and kudos to him on that. You know who I love the most in this film? Ed
Harris.
Dude,
Yeah, he's great.
Ed Harris scares the bananas out of me.
Yeah, as he's gotten older, he's gotten scarier and scarier.
He's just serious.
Yeah.
He's the best. And that's where it got like, I don't know where this movie's going, but all right, I'll give it 2. What do you say? I say see it. I'm not going to say skip it, but I'll say see it.
Okay, yeah, I'd say see it too.
Wow. We came back together at the
I know.
end.
Look at that.
Look at that. Even a disagreement's an agreement. Agree to disagree, as they say.
2 out of 4 though. That's pretty. Try it. Maybe try it is for you.
You think try it maybe?
I mean, 2 out of 4 is pretty. That's like
low.
50%.
So that's more of a try. All right, I'm going to give it a try it. We're going to move it back. We're going to downscale to a try it. See it, try it.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about another movie that is has a new light now after winning some awards and becoming popular, getting picked up by National Geographic. This one is a documentary that's really cool called Ghost Elephants When We Rotate. Welcome back. We're going to talk about a documentary now that is getting a lot of talk and got picked up by a big name. Was it National Geographic?
National Geographic, yeah.
And we're going to talk about it in a second here. We'll get you a quick look at it. This one's called Ghost Elephants. So, Brian, which one's this one about?
So Ghost Elephants comes to us from Werner Herzog. He wrote, directed, and narrated this. And if you're familiar with Werner Herzog, he is maybe the best living documentarian out there, I think. He made Grizzly Man and Encounters at the End of the World.
Every decade he makes just an incredible documentary.
He's great. His fiction movies are great. Yeah, he's one of my favorite filmmakers. And this is a story about Dr. Steve Boyes, who is searching Angola for a rumored species of elephant that it harkens back to this elephant named Henry, who is in the Smithsonian. That is the largest elephant ever recorded. It was killed by a wild game hunter then, and now stands in the Smithsonian. It was something like 11 tons or something like that.
That's right.
And so he's looking for, he believes that this is part of a hidden, ghost elephant species that he's got to find. So part of it is about him going on this sort of dangerous trek with Bantu trackers who are going to hopefully find it. And that is a dangerous journey. There's all kinds of, poisonous grub worms and spiders and stuff like that. But it's also, I think, about just the idea of a dreamer. So Herzog always makes films about what is called the holy fool, which is somebody who's got this obsession and he pursues it relentlessly, and Herzog in the process is pursuing that dream through them. And he finds a poeticism to these characters that I find so fascinating.
Yeah. It's journalism.
Yeah, it's great. And he is this doctor who's pursuing this is almost more interested in the dream and the pursuit than actually finding them. And I think there's a certain melancholy to this that I loved, where he's getting closer to it, but once you have a dream and you pursue it and you achieve it, that dream dies. And that's a little sad.
Yeah, that's why you hear of severe depression from gold medal winners in the Olympics, or pro athletes who retire at 32 and then become lost.
Right.
Because they've hit the pinnacle, and now what?
Yeah.
Yeah, the adventure. I thought it was a stunningly beautiful documentary. A a couple of things stood out to me. First of all, I really enjoyed the philosophical nature of elephants into this tribe's being, right? An elephant's almost like a spiritual god to them, as if it was ancestors sort of reincarnated into these smart, beautiful, graceful, giant animals. I thought that was really cool. And they play it out with these little plays and mimicry and things like that. It was neat to see it.
Welcoming the spirits into their bodies.
Yes.
And yeah, that's very interesting.
The other thing that I loved, and it gave me like this, Grizzly Man's one thing, but like this almost Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe, where it's like, with the phones these days, adventure is very muted and cloudy. It just isn't very authentic anymore, adventure. This was a real world, earthly adventure that people didn't even know if this species existed or not. And here they are going on this trip where you have to go back in technological time, right? Back to these indigenous people. Is it Angola? Is that where they are?
Yeah.
Into this beautiful rainforest and these plateaus and these places that people just really don't visit much because it's so out there. To find a species they don't know if it exists or not. I thought it was romantic in that regard. And I love a great adventure, and the fact that this was nonfiction makes it even cooler.
Yeah, it's really entrancing. I think, Herzog, if you've watched any of his documentaries or even his fictional films, he has this kind of camera movements that feel really dreamlike. It's
sort of like a swaying man. Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's like a, the way I described it in my review, it's like an alien trying to figure out the human race. Like it's just kind of like peering and
bobbing and smoothly tracking, but not stagnant.
Right.
Yes.
It feels like it's searching for something as opposed to just presenting something to you. And that's what I really, really love about Herzog is he's always searching. He's never putting a punctuation on it. And he's very much about, he calls his films like ecstatic poetry, where it's just this, it's not truth. It's not, nonfiction. He's looking for something beyond the tangible.
Yes.
And I think he finds that here.
There was one other weird element though, and you might have guessed this from me, because I don't know anything about Herzog. You do, obviously, because you're Brian A.I. Eggert.
Don't say AI.
Well, human intelligence.
Sure.
HI.
Yeah, HI. Sure.
You're an encyclopedia. I heard that voice though, and I go, that is a unique voice. It's like this German Bavarian accent in a very kind of muted tone. And I was like, where have I heard that voice for? And I knew exactly what it was. Do you know what I knew? What movie do you think I was guessing?
He's been parodied so many times.
Really?
Yeah, he was the villain in Jack Reacher.
That's what it was.
Okay.
I go, that's the guy from Jack Reacher. He's like talking about biting his fingers off because he was in the war.
Yeah.
And I go, is that the Jack Reacher guy? And it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way.
I mean, he's got such an iconic just presence, but yeah, he's done some acting and he's done some voiceover work. In fact, Conan Beyond Borders.
Searching for the elephants now.
Did you ever watch Conan Beyond Borders on HBO?
No.
He does the intro to that, and it's one of the funniest things in the world. Yeah. So he's kind of like approaching self-parody in some cases, but
then I like him even more for that reason.
Yeah. He knows what he's like. He's a fascinating guy. I can't recommend his movies enough, and this is a solid one.
What'd you rate it?
I'd say don't miss it.
I'm going to go ahead and say don't miss it too. Just because a beautiful documentary of this caliber that literally makes a new discovery. I'm pretty sure that their film, this is in 2025, I think they shot it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The video of this species made some sort of world news.
It did, yes.
Yeah, like they've never filmed this species before or something.
Yeah.
Like they rediscovered it, and it's in the documentary. It just makes it so special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't miss it. All right, Cinegift time. You gave a really cool, as you always do, Cinegift last episode. What was it? And then tell me your thoughts about it, and I'll tell you mine.
So this is one of my absolute favorite movies. It's Grand Illusion from 1937. It's by Jean Renoir, and it's a POW movie about World War I soldiers who kind of bond in their POW experience and kind of realize that there's more in common, with between French soldiers and Russian soldiers and American soldiers than there are differences. So a lot of different groups are kind of compiled in this POW camp. Meanwhile,
you're in a German POW camp, correct?
A German POW camp. Yep. So then there's kind of a class difference where like the commanders, one played by Pierre Fresnay, identifies more with like the camp. The guy who's running the camp, played by Eric von Stroheim.
Yeah, because they're camps for officers.
Right. And it's all about how borders and ethnicity and all of these kind of illusory things are fake, and those are human constructs. And really, just sitting down and relating to another human being is what's important. Countries, wars, all this stuff is just humans making reasons up to hate each other. When really, you can sit down with a farmer from China, can sit down with a farmer from France or Iowa or wherever, and they can find something to talk about.
Yeah.
And I love that theme. It was made in 1937, so it's very much commenting on what's about to happen in World War II and some of what is going on in Nazi Germany. It was banned by Nazi Germany and
Was it really?
thought lost for a long time. Like they only because they stored it was it actually preserved.
My God, this was on right before World War II was cooking.
Yeah, I mean, this is why so many people were angry about it. In fact, the Roosevelts at the time made it like we're going to show this in the White House, and every American should see this. They're saying at the time. They absolutely loved it, and it was a big message about kind of humanity and unity.
I thought it was interesting too. They actually didn't treat them that poorly. They actually got along with each other. They had respect for each other. The Germans and the French.
Right. They can all sit
which
down
was
and have
odd,
a meal together
in a POW camp.
Yeah.
It was almost like they befriended each other and became sort of, I don't know about intimate, but just deep friends, and madly respectful of each other and what they had to go through.
Yeah, I think that idea of respect is something that maybe kind
It's
of
lost.
died after World War I. And there's sort of there's all kinds of problems before World War I in terms of class and equality and whatnot, of course. But there was at least a mutual respect, and you would treat certain people with that respect, and that's completely obliterated by World War II. So.
Yeah, and oh man, there's a lot going on in this movie. You just reminded me of something else. A man falls in love on his return, trying to get home, and that the fact that you can fall in love when you're escaping, and bring something to somebody else, maybe a woman who hasn't had a husband in a long time, or is trying to raise a kid on their own, or whatever it is.
And they don't even speak the same language.
Don't even speak the same language. You can fulfill that sort of godly need in people. It was a stunning movie, man, especially made in 1937. It was really nice. Thank you for that.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Appreciate it. All right, we got 1 minute left. I'm going to hit you with a Cinegift. I realized that I had seen a movie that Brian hasn't. I know this may seem impossible to you guys, but this actually happened. And it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Okay. It's a 1985 classic. It is a martial arts comedy set in Detroit. All right? This is one called The Last Dragon, and I'll read you the IMDb summary of it. This is a martial arts / action / musical film produced by Barry Gordy, starring Timac as Leroy Green, a young martial artist seeking the final level of mastery, and Vanity as Laura Charles, a singer that he must protect from an evil music promoter and a rival martial artist named Show Nuff.
Sounds good.
So
Sounds
this
great.
is, I mean, it's as American as a movie gets.
Yeah.
The Last Dragon, everybody. You can watch it on Tubi, by the way. It's anywhere you want to watch movies. You can get it on Prime. I even think it's on Disney Plus, but Tubi's got it for free if you're not streaming anything else.
Great.
Where can they find you, bud?
You can find me at deepfocusreview.com. I actually wrote an essay about your last Cinegift, Magnolia, and my previous Cinegift, Bad Day at Black Rock. And you can find an essay about Grand Illusion as well if you want to learn more about that.
Wait, so our Cinegifts are turning on the material on your website?
Just kind of by coincidence, somebody requested, actually commissioned an essay about Magnolia, and I thought this is too good to be
Wait,
true.
they actually did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Serendipity or happenstance?
A little bit of both. Concerning Magnolia, yeah. It's always about that.
That's a hell of a movie. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you on the next Cinephiles.